All right, as we all know, this console gen started in the fall of 2020, right in the smack middle of COVID. And me and Crowd Pleaser had many discussions when talking about the sales of games on PS5 and whether or not they were selling more on PS5 or PS4. I believe that they were selling mostly on PS5, whereas Crowd Pleaser believed they were selling on PS4. So, after this week's news of all these layoffs and turmoil happening at Sony, which began, with the removal of Jim Ryan, we're going to go over the sales of the games that have sold solely on PS5. No cross-gen, no multiplats. These are the games that are only available on PS5 to find out what is going on with Sony. I'm the Don. We're here with Crowd Pleaser. And we're here with Desert Eagle. And this is Games Point Blank. And we're going to talk about the games Point Blank. Okay, so first off, we have the PS5 launch game, Demon's Souls, remake of the PS3 classic. Desert Eagle, I want to start with you. How much do you think this game sold? Only available on PS5.
Only PS5. Launch up to now, I'm going to say a cool 2 mil.
2 mil? Okay. Crowd Pleaser, what are your predictions here?
I think Demon's Souls sold about 3 million, at least what they announced.
As of September 2021, when they stopped reporting the sales for this game, 1.5 million. So around that time, how many sales did PS5 have? Probably about like 15, 20 million units. So that's about 10%. I mean, I guess that's good. But, $70 only PS5 coming out as the gen leader.
Let's talk about that for a second. That's a remake of an old game. 1.5 million for a Souls type game. And what is that, a year later? That last time we reported? It's not bad. 1.5 for a game no one wants. I'll take it. That's a success.
All right, the next game. This is a launch window game. Destruction All-Stars.
What the Destruction All-Stars? Hold on. Didn't this drop on PS Plus? This is awful, bro. This is awful.
Yes, it did. Oh. This game was originally announced to sell for $70 as it creeped closer to the launch of the PS5, and Sony realized what they had. They discounted the game to $20 and included it day and date on PS Plus. Desert Eagle, what do you think?
I'm gonna say 250,000.
You're being very generous. Crowd Pleaser?
Man, we're talking sales, right? I don't know anyone who cared about this game. No disrespect to the devs, but I would say 50K.
Mm-hmm. You probably care more than Sony did because these sales are unreported. We're gonna leave it at that. Moving on, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, the game that showed the power of the SSD, the magic SSD, only possible on a PS5. Desert Eagle.
Okay, yeah, the first true PS5 game, and I think nobody really cared about it. I'm gonna say 800,000, just under a mil.
800,000. That sounds pretty awful. Crowd Pleaser, what do you think?
Well, this is the Pixar game come to life. This is what everyone's been talking about, that super SSD transforming worlds back and forth. And I want to say this game is better than Demon's Souls in terms of popularity and sales. I will say they reported 2 million.
Everything you were saying was correct until that 2 million. As of July 2021, 1.1 million. Less sales than Demon's Souls.
I was close.
You were close, Desert Eagle. You were close. But being close doesn't get you the chicken dinner. So moving on, Returnal. Also, another game that shows the power of the PS5 with the ray tracing, 60 frames, great graphics, great gameplay. Arguably, some would say, myself included, the best PS5 exclusive. What do you think?
I would say, if I had to guess on what Returnal's looking like, I don't think this is beating Ratchet and Clank. 500,000, 500,000, going gold at the very least before they stop reporting.
Going gold is a bold claim. Desert Eagle, what's your claim?
Man, supposedly a great PS5 game. It has the worst looking main character I've ever seen in a video game. And you know what they say sells? This is the opposite of that. So I'm gonna say 400,000. Lowballing that.
Both of you lowballed it, and both of you were very close, but it sold more than you think. As of July 2021, 560,000.
All right, all right.
The best game with the least sales. Real sad.
New IP,
right.
baby, new IP. If the established ones ain't doing numbers, how this new IP gonna do better?
Next on the list, we have the remake of the remaster, Last of Us Part 1, only on PS5 with the power of PS5, putting PS3 gameplay with PS5 graphics. Desert Eagle, how many sales do you think this game made?
Man, hot, fresh PS5 graphics. And on the tails of the hit show, I'm gonna give it 1 million.
1 million, oof. That's a lot of sales.
That show's a hit.
I can't even say anything. Crowd Pleaser, what do you think?
I agree with Desert Eagle. I remember all those articles saying sales went up 500% or whatever ridiculous number because of the show. I want to say this will sell more than Returnal. I want to even say this will sell more than Demon Souls, even if it's a remake of a remaster of a remake of a remaster of a remaster. I'm thinking even on top of all of that, the star power of Joel and Ellie, I will say 1.5 million copies before they stop reporting.
1.5 before stop reporting. I want to remind you, this game costs $70. It's a remake of a remaster, and it has less content because it's missing the multiplayer. So, with that in mind, you ready for this? Drum roll. I don't have one. Sony has not reported the number of sales of this game. What they did report is that when it released on PC, which was after the show, they made $15.5 million. Now on PC, this game sells for $60. So when you do the math, that's 250,000 copies.
Yikes. And that's what they were willing to reveal.
Yeah. So, moving on to the next PS5 exclusive, Forspoken, released by Square Enix, third-party exclusive, Dying Breed, Desert Eagle. What do you think?
We know this was Flop City. I'm giving that 175,000.
175 for a flop.
Flop.
Crowd pleasing. Me and you were very excited about this game until we played that demo, and I think so was a majority of the people. What do you think?
I think that demo disrespected that game in so many ways. That demo alone buried that studios never to make another game again after that. It's unfortunate.
They shut down the studio after this game. They integrated it.
The demo was instantly ruined the whole entire studio. and it proved how demos will not always work. I think this game did not sell much at all. And this was a day in on PC as well, if I'm not mistaken, or is this
day and date on PC?
I would say 150,000 copies.
You're being generous. The actual number, Square Enix reported 100,000 copies in the first week. Nothing else. Certified flop. The next the next game on this list of games only available on PS5 and their sales numbers. My personal favorite, one of my personal favorites for this year, Final Fantasy 16. Fantastic game. What do you guys think for the sales? Let's start with Crowd Pleaser. He looks deep in thought.
So, Final Fantasy 16 came out with a bang. It had a lot of promotion behind it. Everyone was talking about it. Unlike Forspoken, the demo for Final Fantasy 16 was fantastic. It got everyone actually excited for what the game was going to be. And I think this game did very well being a PS5 console exclusive. I'd probably say, if I had to guess, this was the highest selling game on this list so far. So far, I will say 3 million copies.
3 million copies. Desert Eagle, what do you think? We are approaching 40 million PS5s when this game released.
40 million PS5s. All right. I think the marketing was huge, like Crowd Pleaser was talking about. And the reviews, it had critical acclaim. But the streets ain't talking about it. I don't think anybody played it besides Don Armand. So I think it didn't sell. I'm gonna give it under a million, 900,000.
All right, well, I can tell you straight off the bat. I mean, Square announced immediately this game sold 3 million in the first month.
Woo!
Okay.
That's all they've said. Then, when the quarterly numbers came out, they reported, yeah, it sold well for PS5. Underperformance for them. They ain't make the profits they needed off of this game for how they spent. And so,
but it was the highest selling game on the list so far. Probably the biggest or most popular name on that list.
Yes, you are correct. I was about to say that. The interesting thing about that, the only game that has come close was Demon Souls, and that was a launch game. And now, 3 years in, another 30 million PS5s, and it only sold double what the highest selling game is. I don't know, man. These PS5 sales are shaky. So now, this leads us up to Spider-Man 2, recently released this past month. We know what Sony announced. Do you guys remember what Sony announced?
Tell it for the fans.
All right, so Spider-Man 2 sold 2.5 million in 24 hours with a big old asterisk next to that saying it includes the pre-sales from the PS5 bundle that sold in September. So that does not sound good to me. The point of us going through this exercise is the theory that where are these PS5 sales leading up to? The game sales is not correlating with the amount of systems that are being sold. During earnings calls, the PS5 game sales, due to the $70 price increase, has decreased the sales but has increased the revenue. And when we're looking at these sales, it gives us a window into what's really going on at Sony, why these layoffs are happening. These games are not selling the way they were on PS4. What do you guys think about that? What do you have to say about that?
I think a lot of things. With the advent of this generation specifically and free-to-play games being at one of its all-time highs, I don't think people really want to spend the additional $10 for the $70 current generation game price that all of these console manufacturers are asking for. When you got games like Call of Duty Warzone, Apex Legends, Fortnite, all of these free-to-play games that people are sinking all of their time into, Overwatch 2, they're just playing all of these games, high-quality games that they do not need to spend money on. And then you're asking for these games like Spider-Man 2, taking nothing away from it, but a single-player experience that once you beat the campaign, you probably won't touch again, at least a majority of the people playing. When you can go back to those free-to-play games, or even these multiplayer games that aren't free-to-play, but you can continue playing them over and over, like the Call of Duties, the Modern Warfare 3s, the Modern Warfare 2s. I just think it's a very hard time for manufacturers of these video games.
Crowd Pleaser took the words right out of my mouth. These free-to-play games are the most popular right now. And, you know, the majority of these PlayStation 5 owners, they just got the system because it's PlayStation. The PlayStation brand itself is the hit. They don't even know if a game is going to come out that they want. They just want the system first, and then they'll figure it out later. And then they're getting these free-to-play games like Fortnite because everybody else is playing Fortnite. Everybody else is playing Warzone. So, you know, and then like Crowd Pleaser said, the $70 game, not a lot of people want to spend that money. Parents are not spending that money for their kids until Christmas. And on top of that, most of these games are just remakes of PS4 games or PS3 games. So again, another reason why the majority of the PS5 owners are not going to buy these games again. You know, people are starting to smarten up to Sony releasing these games 2-3 times every generation. Is like ridiculous by now, and people ain't falling for it no more.
I also want to add one point that we actually brought this off camera previously, but a good point that I want to make is also Game Pass, right? Obviously, this is Microsoft Game Pass we're talking about, but what Game Pass has done for the industry, the expectation of gamers, even to the point where PlayStation had to create their own game library for PS Plus users, obviously at a higher tier and more money, but it has worked maybe in the negative, right? Because we're showing that there's an increase in PS Plus subscribers. However,
no, it's decreasing. It's decreasing.
I think I read that there was like 30% increase.
No, they said 30% of the subscribers upgraded to the higher tiers. But the calls, the actual number of subscribers has been going down.
And that's fine. But 30% bump in people upgrading to the premium tier or the next tier up that has this game library. And the expectation, once again, let's not forget, Xbox Game Pass gives day and date exclusives on the Microsoft console to these subscribers. PlayStation cannot do that, right? That's already 1 point for PlayStation. But the expectation that you're giving these gamers, that 30% increase, and all these gamers playing all of these games for free, or quote unquote free, but it's really a monthly charge they're paying, or yearly or annual. Either way, in their mind, they're like, why am I going to drop 70 cash for this game when hopefully in a year or 2 years when the game's old, we can already play that game on this service? And remember, PlayStation didn't want to do this. They said themselves, it's not sustainable. They were forced. Their head was forced because Microsoft can outmoney them. That's all it is. So they had to do something to compete. And it's at the detriment of their first party exclusives, because I'm telling you right now, a lot of people who are paying that money, PlayStation Plus is not cheap. The tiers above that, the 2 tiers higher, they're not cheap. I'm assured you, people who are paying these tiers are thinking twice about also paying $70, $80 for the deluxe edition of these games. And that could also be a reason why sales are dwindling in general.
I mean, you bring up a good point with the PS Plus tiers, because if you notice, as we were going through the games through release, they were selling more at the beginning, and as it goes later on in the gen, the games are selling less, which is a very strange phenomenon. But I guess that would explain it.
And isn't some of these games that we even spoke about on the library right now? A good portion of them are on the library. So these sales, do they even matter for PlayStation anymore in terms of that? If you can easily just play it.
The first 3 are there: Demon Souls, Ratchet and Clank, Returnal. Those are on there now. So yeah, you don't have to buy it anymore.
I'm really curious what a Last of Us 2 remake will sell, because if part 1 did the numbers that we were talking about, it's like, who are you selling this stuff to? Like, are you gonna try to get a cash grab again to season 2 Last of Us shows to like kind of get that boost? And it's like, why are you spending this entire generation on remakes? Give us a game. Come on, man, this is crazy.
It's either remakes or sequels that don't change in any way to the originals other than graphically. And you want people to pay $70 to play it one time. Nah, people are buying Madden, they're buying Call of Duty, NBA 2K. People are gonna buy GTA 6. They're not buying these first-party games, these so-called great games PlayStation got.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's looking like. It's looking like people just aren't buying these PS5 games, and they're spending so much money to make them. You can see that's where these layoffs are coming from. But you guys can let us know what you think is happening with these game sales decreasing for PS5 in the comments of this video. Till next time, game on!
If you liked our content, mash that like button, and if you're new to the channel and want to see more content, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.